Welcome students, today we are going to study from our 12th English textbook section 4. In this video today we are going to learn about history of novel, which is in our textbook 4.1 on page number 172. You see on the screen blueprint of our section 4. In this lesson, in this video, we are going to study 4.1 history of novel. In this chapter, we will study writing a note on chapter, character, theme, plot, language and setting. Through studying this section, we will acquire skills or features, understanding, imagining, collecting the past and the present. Let us start the study our 4.1 history of novel. Section 4 4.1 history of novel. The 18th century has gifted English literature two entirely new forms which are without any traces in the ancient classical heritage. One of those was the periodical essay and other was novel. Both of these forms, especially novel, caught the spirit of the 18th century as the age of intellectual, sentimental and realistic plane, and tried to instruct the readers which would help them to a more purposeful and virtuous life. Since the time of its origin, novel has been gaining popularity and growing gradually. Today it is recognized as the most dominant literary genre. A novel is a relatively long narrative fiction which describes intimate human experiences, normally in a prose form. The present English word novel is derived from the Italian novella, meaning new. A novel narrates a story, embellishing it with more details of time, place, nature, people and their minds, their gestures and activities. It creates a picture of the society of that time. Novel makes life easier to understand than in drama and poetry. In modern era, novel has adopted literary prose. The novel as a literary genre has a history of about 2000 years. Among the early precursors of novel, a collection of tales known as Greek romances dating from the 2nd to the 6th century may top the list. These imaginative and delightful stories of ideal love and marvelous adventures profoundly affected the creative writing for the next 1000 years. Though novel in the modern era usually makes use of literary prose, the earlier threads of the genre can be found in Virgil's Eclogus or Malory's Morte d'Arthur or Geoffrey Chaucer's The Contemporary Tales. Murakami Sikibu's Tale of Genji has been described as the world's first novel. The European novel is often said to begin with the Don Quixote by Spanish writer Miguel de Cervantes, which was published in two parts between 1605 and 1615. In the 18th century, the appearance of newspapers and magazines attracted a large number of readers from the middle class. These new readers had little interest in romances and tragedies, which were appreciated by the upper class. Thus, need for a new type of literature arose that would express the new ideas of the 18th century. The 18th century new literature was characterized by the spirit of realism and denial of the romantic features like enthusiasm, passion, and imagination. The foreground for the novel was prepared by all these factors. After 1740, novel originated as the literary form in England. Increase in trade and commerce along with the Industrial Revolution had given rise to the middle class. A class of people had emerged to occupy an elite status. The realistic picture of everyday life and problems of common people depicted in the novels appealed to the newly educated class and was regarded by them as a respectable reading material. Thus, novel as a form appears to have been designed for both to voice the aspirations of the middle and lower classes and meet their longings. The spread of machines could provide time to the educated middle class for reading and discussions about the books. Drama and poetry were the two literary forms that were fading away. Novel was a combination of some features of them and some new features were added to the form. It was the prominent form in the 18th century and onwards to encompass the social, political, and cultural happenings and scientific progress. The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan 1678 and Ornuku by Afra Ben 1688 initiated the plenteous and colorful tradition of English novel and was followed by Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, Mal Flanders, and Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travel, a famous satire. Other major novelists of the 18th century are Samuel Richardson, Pamela or Virtue Rewards, and Clarissa, both epistolary novels. Henry Fielding's Lawrence Sterne, and Tomby Smollett. The tradition was enriched by many other stalwart novelists such as Charles Dickens, Walter Scott, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Horace Walpole, Thomas Hardy, Wilkie Collins, and H.G. Wells. The 20th century is marked by the modern topics and innovative styles and techniques and widened angles of views by the novelists like E.M. Forster, James Joyce, Joseph Conrad, Henry James, George Orwell, Graham Greene, D.H. Lawrence, William Golding, and Anthony Burgess. They widened the circumference of the genre by writing political, social, psychological, and other modern issues in their novels. There are immigrant authors like Salman Rushdie, India, V.S. Naipaul, Trinidad, Kosovo, Iroquois, Japan, and many others. The contribution of the women novelists to this great pigment cannot be neglected. The novel of the Manners, Evelina by Frances Burney, Gothic novels by Anne Radcliffe, a novel based on science of the age, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley are landmark novels. Jane Austen has been ruling over the minds of people through her novels. Bronte's sisters Emily and Charlotte have created their own place by their incomparable works, The Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre. Mary Ann Evans alias George Eliot wrote the novels reflecting psychological insights. Virginia Woolf is the pioneer of the stream of the consciousness techniques in English novel. Agatha Christie created her own place by writing many novels based on crime. Hercules Poirot and Miss Marple are the evergreen detectives created by her. Harper Lee, Margaret Atwood, Toni Morrison, and Alice Walker have elevated the tradition further to prosperity. Indian scenario: Rajmohan's Wife by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, serialized in Indian Field, was the first novel in English written by an Indian. The period after that is marked by few more novels written by the Indian writers. These novels bore either nationalistic virtues or social issue as their main framework. Mulkraj Anand, R.K. Narayan, and Raja Rao were the major trio who prevailed in the period after that. Novelists like Anita Desai, Nayantra Sehgal, and Arun Joshi and Manohar Malgaonkar changed the current of Indian English novel through their works. Amitav Ghosh, Vikram Seth, and Upamanyu Chatterjee ameliorated the Indian novel in English by adding new features to it. Recent years have witnessed the dazzling performance by Indian novelists like Salman Rushdie, Arvind Adiga, Arundhati Roy, Kiran Desai, and Kiran Nagarkar. The tradition of Indian English novel has undergone a vital change since its birth, and it has undoubtedly very bright future. Novella. A novella, the word originated from the Italian word novelli, is a type of prose fiction which is shorter than a full-length novel and longer than short stories. It is a well-structured yet short narrative, often satiric or realistic in tone. It usually focuses on one incident or issue with one or two main characters and takes place at a single tradition. Some of the famous novellas in English are The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, Billy Birds by Herman Melville, Death in Venice by Thomas Mann, Says by the Day by Samuel Bellow, and Pearl by John Steinbeck. Elements of novel or novella. There are 6 elements essential of novel or novella. All these factors may be related to another in the work by an author. First one is theme. Theme is the central idea in the novel which can be expressed in a nutshell. It is a philosophical statement or a truth which the writer has put forth through the narration of the series of the events in the story and characters acting in the particular setting. Next element of the novel or novella is plot. Plot is essentially the story or the course of the events that makes up the theme. It is created by the conflict either internal inside the mind of the character or external with other characters or entities. Plot may be simple, one plot, or complex, consisting the interweaving of many subplots. Another element of the novella is character. Characterization is related to the plot as the course of events take place because of the certain behavior of the characters. Description of character can range from thumbnail sketch to deep, wordy, highly detailed verbal sketch. The important character may have been described in its every aspect by the writer. The minor characters are not given much importance. The reader follows the actions of one main character throughout the novel. This character is referred to as the protagonist. Protagonist means main character is in conflict with the characters or an entity or a force, internal or external, which is known as antagonist. Another element of the novel is setting. Setting is the background in which the story takes place. There are several aspects in the setting. It includes place, period, time, climate or weather and lifestyle. Plot and characters are the two major elements that are affected due to setting. Another element is conflict. The struggle between the opposite forces in the story is called conflict. Conflict is the story provides interest and curiosity about the plot. Another element of the novel is language and style. The language and the techniques used by the author for the narration of the course of events is known as the style. An author can use extensive vocabulary and high phrases, or he may be laconic and would write only to the point, or the may mix both according to the requirement for meeting his purpose. He may use linguistic devices to make the narrative effective. All these factors decide the texture of the narration and create an impact on readers. Next point is types of novels. Realistic novel. The realistic novel is a fiction that gives the effect of realism. Sometimes this is also called a novel of manner. It can be characterized by its complex characters with mixed motives that are rooted in the social class. The characters in the realistic novel interact with other characters and undergo plausible and everyday experiences. Picturesque novel. The word picturesque is originated from the Spanish word picaro, which means a rug. A picturesque novel narrates the adventures of the protagonist, who is an eccentric or disreputable person in an episodic form. Next type, historical novel. A historical novel is a novel set in a period earlier than that of the writing. Epistolary novel. The word epistolary derives from the Latin word epistola, which means a letter. The epistolary novel is that in which the writer presents the narrative through a series of correspondence or other documents. Although letters are the most common basis for epistolary novel, diary entries are also popular form of this type. Next type of the novel is Gothic novel. The novel that include terror, mystery, horror, thriller, supernatural doom, death or decay or haunted building are called the Gothic novels. Next type of the novel is autobiographical novel. The autobiographical novel is the novel based on the life of the author. However, the author changes the places and names of characters or even may change or avoid certain details of his life. It may or may not be in the first person narration. Next type of the novel is allegorical novel. An allegorical is a story that bears more than one level of meaning. The surface meaning of such novel is different from the symbolic meaning of it. The symbolic meaning of an allegory may be political, religious, historical, or philosophical. Utopian or dystopian novel. This is the next type of the novel. Utopia is an imaginary community or society possessing the ideal qualities. It is a common literary theme, especially in science fiction or speculative fiction. Psychological novel. Psychological novel is the work of fiction that treats the internal life of the protagonist or even the other characters as much as the external factors. Stream of consciousness novel. Stream of consciousness is a phrase coined by William James in his treatise Principles of Psychology 1890. It means the flow of the thoughts. Incidents in the plot are in the sequence of their occurrences. The novelist narrates them as they enter the mind of the character. Building romance novel. The German word building romance indicates growth. The fictional biography or autobiography is concerned with the growth of the protagonist's mind, spirit, and characters from their childhood to adulthood. In the first half of the 20th century, a cult of pulp magazines became popular in which fantastic fiction for the general entertainment of the masses was printed on the cheap pulp paper. The pulp fiction era provided a building ground for the detective novels and science fiction. Science fiction is a genre of speculative fiction dealing with imaginative concepts such as futuristic setting, futuristic science and technology, space travel, time travel, parallel universes, and extraterrestrial life. Science fiction often explores the potential consequences of scientific and other innovations. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley 1823 is considered the first novel based on science and technology. The genre flourished in the second half of the 19th century. Detective fiction is a subgenre of crime fiction and mystery fiction in which an investigator or a detective, either professional or amateur, investigates a crime, often a murder. This was the explanation of novel. Students, in the next video we are going to see brainstorming activities detail. Please subscribe our channel and press the bell icon. Thank you for watching.